All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Shemel Shai. And give double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone that do well. Salutations to the men of the hopeful and sincere elect. It's Marcus from Trinidad camp. Just want to do a little edification for the elect's sake. And the name of this lesson would be Ponder. And the reason why, I'm doing this lesson and calling it Ponder, all right? You know what, let me read it first, and then I'll explain the reason why I'm doing this lesson. This is Ponder. It says early 14th century, to estimate the worth of, to appraise, from Old French ponderer, to weigh, poise, modern French ponderer, and directly from Latin pondere, ponder, consider, reflect, literally to weigh, from pondus, genitive ponderous, weigh, from the stem of ponder, to hang, cause to hang away, to draw, sketch, spin, meaning to weigh a matter mentally, is attested from the late 14th century. All right, so basically the word ponder means to weigh. All right, to weigh. It says what? To weigh a matter mentally. All right, and the reason why I'm doing this lesson is that, like for the younger brothers, when they come in the truth and they're reading the scriptures, it's not just that you just read. All right, it's about pausing and reflecting or weighing mentally the precept that you just read, so you could understand what you just read. All right, it says Psalms 1 verse 1, blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful, but his delight is in the law of Yahweh Shemel Shai, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. So a part of pondering is meditating. When you meditate, you actually weighing something in your mind and you sitting down, and it's like, as the scripture said, you're counting the cost. You really, taking in and grasping the precepts. You ain't just reading as though it's a story, and then you read 2-3 chapters or 2-3 books in one night, and then it's, you're satisfied because you read 2-3 books. But when the morning comes, you can't remember nothing that you just read, because all you did was just read. You didn't study. Part of studying is pondering. You read 2 verses, and then you pause and like, all right, so it said this. I remember I read this the other day. So you match up your precepts. So even your precepts can match up. All right? Because you ponder, you stop, and you think on the scriptures. It's like eating food. As the scripture said, I desire his food more than his word more than my necessary food. When you eating food, and the food is delightful, when you, like, let's say you put piece of barbecue chicken or piece of grilled steak in your mouth, when you take that first bite, and you take those, you chew for like 5 times, and then you really pause and you reminisce on where you just put this heavenly taste in your mouth, and you enjoy the taste before you swallow it down. So it's like you store that taste in your memory bank. It's the same way with the scriptures. When you read 2-3 verses, you pause and you think like, all right, cool. All right, understand what you just said. And by meditating on it, by that pause that you made to meditate, to ponder, to weigh mentally the scriptures, it actually sits within. It actually sits within. You'll be able to understand the precepts more. You'll be able to match up precepts better. You remember more because you actually meditated, you pondered on the scriptures. Don't just read and think you're achieving something. You would achieve more by actually meditating on the scriptures. When let's say you finish read a whole chapter, and you made like 5 highlights, it's like 30 verses in the chapter, and you made like 5-10 highlights, and then you go on to the next chapter. By the time you go on to the next chapter, you should at least remember at least 3 of your highlights that you just highlighted. If you don't remember any of your highlights, then you didn't do anything. Go over your highlights so you could remember what you just read. Meditate on the highlights so that in the event that a 2/3 come up And they taught the bullshit. You like, hey, yes, I remember I studied this. Or, I'm potential member, the elect come up asking a question and you be there like, yes, I have this precept that I studied. This will seal the deal to seal his faith. All right, in the doctrine. All right, because why? Because you study. All right, because you study. This is Proverbs chapter 4 verse 7. It says, wisdom is the principal thing. Wisdom is the chief thing. Therefore, get wisdom, because the scriptures is wisdom. And with all they getting, get understanding. If you just reading the scriptures and not meditating, not pondering, not weighing what you just read, not weighing the intensity, the gravity of the scriptures to really remember what you just read, you're not doing anything. You're not gaining any understanding, and you're not really gaining wisdom. All you're doing is just reading. As the scripture said, don't be a forgetful hearer. You'll be a man just looking at his face in a mirror. Because if you just reading for reading's sake, you're going to end up a forgetful hearer. You're just going to read, and then you're going to forget what you read. And then you're going to come a time where you're going to say, okay, I'm not really growing in the faith. You're not growing because you're not taking the time to digest the food that you just put in your mouth. All you're doing is just gobbling down. You're not taking the time to savor the flavor. When you savor the flavor, then it will be honey in your mouth. When the honey in your mouth, you take the time to let it, sit on your palate. Let it taste bud taking it the taste. So that when it goes in your stomach, you'll be satisfied. You have to be satisfied at the end of reading, knowing that you learned something, knowing that you remembered something, knowing that your cup was full. Ponder on the scriptures. Meditate on it. The word ponder means to weigh mentally. Weigh mentally. When the scriptures like Revelation chapter 1 verse 3, blessed is he that read it. You pause and you ponder on that scripture. Blessed is he that read it. Alright, so you read the scriptures, but then when you read the scriptures, you have to understand, you remember this. 4 verses down, it says what? Behold, all eyes shall see him. So when you say all eyes shall see the Lord, that means, a lot of people gonna be alive when the Lord come. And it says even them that pierced him. So even them that pierced him, that means, so the Roman soldiers that pierced the Lord on the cross, they're gonna see the Lord when he comes on his chariot. So then that means it must have reincarnation. And this happens from pondering on the scriptures. Because you take the time to sit and let it marinate. You take the time to go over that precept. If you don't do that, then guess what? Simple things like that, pursuant to Proverbs, I'll read it. This is Proverbs chapter 24, verse 7. It says, wisdom is too high for a fool. Those precepts just gonna fly straight over your head because you're not taking the time to understand what you just read. In your mind, reading 10 chapters for the night is achieving something. Now it's not achieving nothing if you don't remember and understand what you just read. You'll be like a sponge. You just soak up a lot of water, but guess what? Eventually you're going to lose all that water. Eventually you're just going to lose all that water you just sucked up. You have to be able to maintain that water. Be a cup so that you could hold that water that you just dipped up. Don't be a sponge where you just soaked up water and all the water gonna run back out. That is what's gonna happen when you just rushing to read. It's not just about rushing to read. It's about remembering, understanding. So ponder on the scriptures. Do like what Isaac did. Isaac went out in the field and he meditated. Meditate on these things. This is Ecclesiasticus chapter 21 verse 17. It says, they inquire the mouth of the wise man in the congregation, and they shall ponder his words in their heart. Like whom? What he said really made sense. The mark of the beast have to be the RFID chip. Because in the scriptures it said, you shall not buy or sell. And now they're saying that the RFID chip gonna be the new monetary system and the dollar gonna be done away. So if the dollar be done away, then you can't use the dollar anymore. And if you don't take this chip, then you wouldn't be able to buy or sell. So the eye for the chip have to be the mark of the beast. This is what pondering does. You think, you reflect on what you just heard or what you just read. So when we come out on the highways and byways and we preach, they are out there on the highways, they're going to ponder our words, and that's how they come in, because they pondered on the words. Now when you reading, you ain't just rushing to read the word, to read 5, 10, 15 chapters. You making sure you remember what you just read. You reading up the history with David, with Abraham, with Isaac. You have to remember, so that guess what? Simple things, simple names. You could be able to say, well, you know, hey, this incident happened with this man. And that will happen because you took time. You took time to read the scriptures, because reading is just not only reading. Reading is also understanding. In all that getting, get understanding. And getting understanding is something that you have to do slow. You have to take your time. In the islands, it says, hurry, hurry, bird, don't build good nests. And if you rush the brush, you get paint up. So you have to take your time to read the scriptures and remember. It's about also remembering what you just read. It's not just rushing them to read. Just, guess what? You gaining, let's say, like, you inherited $1 million from your father. You gained it easy. You guess what? You might just blow with $1 million, and you know, at the end of a week, you have nothing. But if your father took the time to show you how to acquire that $1 million, guess what? You're gonna increase and multiply that million by 100-fold. Because why? Because you understand the money, you understand the struggle to get it, you understand the worth of it. And it's just like the word. You understand the worth of the word when you take your time to understand the scriptures. That is why the churches said, what his appearance is small, but his speech is contemptible and his letters weighty. Paul's letters were weighty. It had weight in them. It had substance in them, because Paul was a man who understood what he was doing. Paul wasn't a man just coming out there saying that Esau is the devil, the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans are the Hebrew Israelite. He was able to be a Jew to the Jews and able to be a Greek to the Greek because of understanding, because he understands both sides of the fence. And things like this comes with understanding. This is Psalms 119 verse 15. It says, I will meditate in thy precepts and have respects in thy way. So you have to meditate in the Lord precept. You have to meditate in this word. Meditate the word. Don't just read and just, that is it. When you're done read, you have to meditate. Reflect on what you just read. Meditate on the word so that you will increase. What the scripture said, the word of this law shall not depart of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate day and night. When you meditate on the word, it means you have to sit down and you go over what you just read. You reflect on what you just read to make sure you understand what you just read. And when it's like when you're going to school. When you're going to school and have an exam coming up, you actually learn more when you understand what a certain subject is about, other than just studying to pass the test. You will study and memorize to pass the test, but then after the test you forget everything, because all you did was like a sponge, you sucked up the water. But when you take the time to understand, guess what? It will last longer. The memory of it will last longer. Don't be a forgetful hearing this truth. Don't be a sponge just sucking up water. Be a cup and hold the water. Understand what you read. Meditate in the precepts of the Lord. Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. This is the final precept here. This is 1 Timothy chapter 4. It says, verse 15, meditate on these things. It says, meditate upon these things and give thyself wholly unto them, that thy profit may appear to all. Meditate on the precepts. Meditate on the word. Pause and meditate on the precepts that you're reading. Don't just rush down to read 10 chapters. They say, yeah, Akim, I read 10 chapters last night, and I accomplished a great feat. And then the Akim will say, well, what you read? And I was reading Timothy, but, you know, I just had to go over it to remember, well, nah, you don't want to do that. You should have already done that. Don't come and boast about reading 10 chapters when you can't remember nothing that you just read. It's about remembering and understanding. That is the key. When you remember and you understand, you'll be able to apply. And then when you see brothers increasing, you wouldn't be like, you know, why brothers increasing and I are reading and I'm not understanding. Because why? Because you're not taking the time to savor the flavor. Meditate on the words. Savor the flavor. And above all, ask the Most High for understanding. Ask the Most High for understanding. Because he said he will give it liberally. Alright? So I hope it was edifying. You know, want to give all praises to Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Give double honors to the apostles of great mercy and do rule well. Salutations to the men of the whole land, saints elect. Alright? This is Brother Makazar from Trinidad Camp saying Shalom and stay strong.